Welcome to another episode of Duel-cast, where we try to make you better at the game, answer some questions, and just have a good time while we're doing it. Because, that's why we play games, to have fun or make
Yeah.
money, depending on what you're trying to do. But we're not trying to make
Yeah.
money. Well,
Nice.
I guess, I mean, that first voice you heard interrupting my intro was Kevin. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going great.
And that second voice you heard interrupting my intro was Jason. How's it going, Jay?
Hey, I'm just as misunderstood as your average, everyday modern Satanist.
Oh my god.
Just saying.
Awesome.
They're misunderstood people,
Yeah.
That's true.
Not that I'm a,
So,
I'm not a Satanist.
just kind of moving past the Satanists.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Well, I mean,
Ah,
it kind of is, I guess, for some people, but
yeah.
how are you guys doing?
So today we wanted to do something a little different. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually, the three of us are gonna watch one of my games actually live, and we're gonna kind of talk about some of the decision points and some of the things that we're going through my head specifically, and they'll kind of throw in what they maybe I should have done differently. And what we're gonna do is throw up the link to that game on the YouTube channel, and we'll also
on the post.
and then in the YouTube video we'll also have that as the background while we're talking about it, so you'll be able to kind of follow along if you want to, so that we're not trying to describe this tactical board game.
We're gonna describe
with
it
just
though.
our words. We're gonna do our best, but visual helps with a game like Duelist. So yeah, with that, let's kick it off.
That game.
And just to give everybody a spoiler, this is my my Thunder High deck, which is basically a backstab deck with Thunderhorn in it. But in this game specifically, Thunderhorn's a pretty big all-star, and
And I think
we'll
you
watch
mentioned
that.
this there for a second, but I just wanted to hammer it down again. I mean, we talked about this deck a little bit last week, but we want to use this as a catalyst in general for talking about positioning and whatnot. So if you're watching along, there's going to be a lot of pausing and whatnot as we talk about different plays and things like that. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Kevin.
And I'll talk about some of the other decisions too.
What do we think about this replacement?
Yeah. So, first of all, good point, Kevin. So this is his opening hand.
Yeah.
He's going first. He's got Key Beholder, Killing Edge. What is that? Jaguar.
Onyx Jaguar,
Onyx
Juxtaposition,
Jaguar.
and Phoenix Fire.
So
And I needed a 2-drop because, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, 2-drops are important, especially in this deck. I don't want to not do something on turn one. So I'm getting rid of the 5-drop Jaguar, and the Juxtaposition really is nice, but I don't have anything that abuses it in my hand, so I'm not going to use it with a Key Beholder.
plus, if you don't have any creatures that you can play for 2 turns,
Yeah,
aside from a Key Beholder.
Juxtaposition's pretty terrible. So yeah, that's why I got rid of the most expensive and the thing that really doesn't do anything with the cards I have in my hand right now, to try to find that 2-drop.
Yeah, I agree with this. I would say the only other one, maybe if you got rid of the Killing Edge and kept the Juxtaposition, even though I think it can go either way on that, depending on what you're. I don't know. I'd rather have the Killing Edge, just like you, but that's a scenario. I think you always get rid of the Jaguar, but the other one you can swap them.
Yeah.
Both those cards are creature dependent, and in a hand that won't have any creatures, and depending on how the turns play out, that Key Beholder is going to be dead right away. So you need that 2-drop
Right.
for another target of focus.
Yep.
You don't
Still
get a
no
2-drop.
2-drop. So,
Oh,
but I
look
do
at that.
replace the Phoenix Fire, and I luckily get a Scroll Bandit.
Now, now that is an interesting decision right there, because you got an Inner Focus and a Mist Dragon Step, not unlike your opening hand. Both of them are creature dependent, and you chose to get rid of the Phoenix Fire, one of the few cards that isn't creature dependent. Explain to us what you were thinking there and why you made the wrong decision.
I don't know if that's the wrong decision.
So my thought process, well, so for one thing, Phoenix Fire is not a
Well-
linchpin card in this deck. Like, it's in there because it's a value card. Like, you're playing Shanghai, you run Phoenix Fire. But
Because it's one of the best, most efficient cards in the game.
well, but honestly, if I have a semi decent hand where I have, a Scroll Bandit or a Katara or something like that, I value Mist Dragon Seal, Juxtaposition, Inner Focus way more than I do Phoenix Fire, because I'm going to do more damage usually than the Phoenix Fire, or the same amount, kill a creature and get a buff on my thing. So my thought process was, Phoenix, I don't really care. And if I get the 2-drop, because all my 2-drops in this deck, I'm pretty sure, and Katara, I'll have backstab. So the hand that I have, Killing Edge, Inner Focus, Mist Dragon Seal, are bonkers if I get a backstab minion. And the Inner Focus, Mist Dragon Seal are also good with the Key Beholder I already have. So to me, my thought process was, if I don't get the 2-drop, I'm not playing Phoenix Fire on his face, and I'm going to play Key Beholder, and I'll be able to do the same thing, provided he doesn't kill it. But that was my thought process, that Phoenix Fire was not super important, especially this early in the game. I have ways to kill stuff with my creatures. I didn't need the Phoenix Fire at that point.
I will say probably getting rid of the Mist Dragon Seal would probably been the safer spot, just in case you didn't get a minion. Just so that if and when he plays a minion, you might be able to clear it off the board without having a minion on board.
Yeah.
To speak. I mean, now that you have the Scroll Bandit, I mean, you're looking pretty good as far as some.
See, I knew what I was going to replace into, and so I was like, Phoenix Fire, get out of here. I don't need you.
But I feel like you could have did all right without the Mist Dragon Seal.
Yeah.
And the
Especially
opponent,
not knowing what you're getting and get.
we never said who the opponent is. The opponent is Vitruvian,
Right.
Xerix.
Oh, yeah. Well, if they're watching along, they would know that.
Yeah. Well, some people might not be.
That's true. You might be in your car. Don't watch it on YouTube right now.
Unless you're the passenger.
No.
Well, okay. Touche.
All right.
Yeah.
That's it. So now the whole point of this is to talk about positioning. So we should mention that Scroll Bandit, you played him upper and front angle there.
Yeah, and that's basically, so I have the option. I can take the mana tile if I want to, or if depending on what I draw, if I want to back it up and then, to save it for a Mist Dragon Seal later or something like that, I have the option. I'm not too concerned about a tiger.
Let's dial this down. Hey, that's what I was going to mention. So we're not playing around not in a 2-drop. We're not playing around tigers. We just hope for the best. I'm just kidding, Jeremy. I myself don't care to play around pesky tigers. They're just, if they have them, good for them. It's very annoying. I don't
Right. Yeah.
a lot of the times, but usually playing in opposition, I just don't like doing that.
And this is what we talked about 2 weeks ago for any of our consistent listeners. I mean, that turn 1 tiger when you're on the play and your opponent on the draw. I mean, very few things swing the game in the opposite direction as a turn 1 tiger. I mean, not all decks run them. Xerix,
Yeah. But even if
Possible,
even in
but-
this scenario, if he did have the tiger, which he doesn't,
spoiler alert. Jeez,
spoiler,
to turn
I'm not too sad. I mean, I'm sad because of my hand, but I can play the key beholder next turn for sure, and I'm gonna replace
Probably
to try to find.
inner focus.
Yeah, I already, because now I have two of them.
I'm
You
sad
can
because
probably
I don't know
drop
my
it
place in the world, but also that you don't have a good hand.
But because I'm perfectly fine with him trading that into the scroll bandit normally, and then cleaning it up with something, or moving away, freezing it with key beholder, and then dealing with it the next turn. I mean, I'd prefer he didn't do that, right? But I'm not super sad, because you use that semi-premium, basically removal spell. I mean, it's a minion, but yeah. But I wasn't concerned. If he had it, great. If he didn't, I'm in a pretty good spot then.
Yeah.
So let's let him have a turn, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, let's let the opponent. So this turn,
Packs.
yep, packs on the mana tile, packs in front.
Boom.
And
Go with me.
so I'm like, well, all right. So I replaced one of the inner focus into juxtaposition. It's not going to do me a whole lot of good here. I was kind of in the tank a little bit on this turn, just because I really can't go take the tile now, because I don't want one of the packs or both of them to run up and hit the scroll bandit, and then him be able to clear it with his general. So I ended up moving that back, and I play key beholder to freeze the front packs and let the one behind run up. And the thought process behind that was, I wanted the opportunity, depending on what he does with his general. Now he could just move up and block the come up behind the packs, but I didn't know what I was going to draw, and I wanted the chance to backstab, because he's most likely gonna to move, and I didn't want it to be too far away. So that was the thought process there.
Yeah. I myself, I'm not positive I would have done. I would have done it. I would have moved the scroll bandit on the Menace Spring, and then I would have missed Dragon Seal. Then I would have killed and backstabbed him. Then I would have moved my general in front of the packs, and then I would have called it a day. And
I do like that series of actions.
just because you're refueling your hand. Sure, you use 2 cards, but you're also dealing a decent amount of damage, and you're getting 2 cards back, because when you play the Killing Edge, you draw a card if it's on a backstab minion. And then the packs, they just don't scare me. I'll just walk my general. I won't even attack them, because I'd rather have the mindless packs attack into my general and whatnot.
Yeah.
And he's got this crazy backstab guy right behind him.
I will say, as a slightly alternative, I do like, so speaking about positioning, Jeremy is playing fairly safe because he's preserving his creatures, and he doesn't have an immediate and obvious way to deal with 4 2/2s on the board, with his opponent playing an unknown threat thereafter. So, had he done like what you were saying, he would have been in a situation where he would have been outnumbered, and his hand didn't really support clearing the board. Whereas this lets him play a little bit safer, gives him a turn to find an answer for all those 2/2s, and whatnot, go from there.
Yeah.
And had I not made that play with the key beholder, my next play wouldn't have been possible, because both Paxes would have cleared. They would have run into something. But at the end of my turn, I drew Thunderhorn, which, for those of you keeping score at home, is really good when your opponent has a battle pet on the field.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And this play, I did not agree with from my opponent, I would have killed the key beholder with that Whispering Sands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
it was.
I mean, both of them are a decent threat, but that key beholder is going to do more damage usually over time.
Yeah. You're just scared of that backstab, steal a card value, man.
Yeah.
And he didn't know you were gonna. And it should be noted. So he ended up playing a what is it? A Fireside Obelisk? What's it called?
Fireblaze.
Fireblaze
Obelisk.
Yeah.
Up on the top mana tile, it had the 2 spawned 2/2 dervishes, right below it, with his general right below it. So he has the next 3 tiles in a row are just 2 dervishes and his general. The packs in the center tile still. So all of his stuff is clustered together. So this is prime juicy Thunderhorn territory.
Oh yeah.
This is what we play Thunderhorns for.
Yeah.
Your opponent doesn't. And by the way, this is almost the reason why battle pets should not be meta at all right now, because Thunderhorn exists. And
Right.
you really just don't want to leave yourself that vulnerable to a bad attack from a battle pet, you know?
Yeah.
Vitruvian especially. I mean, look, it sounds kind of crazy to say like, oh, you can't play packs anymore because Thunderhorn exists. But at the same time, that situation, I mean, he's just so far behind because of that one bad attack, you know. It might be time to give it a rest for a minute on the packs until better things arise. But
yeah. One of the things to back up a little bit on the Thunderhorn play. So I positioned that obviously so that the packs is going to run right into it. But what do you guys think about playing the Thunderhorn on the mana tile and then Mist Dragon sealing it to the spot I had it, or even just next to the packs somewhere? Now, knowing what we know now, he had a Falcius in hand, which would have made that play not optimal because he would have just been able to kill it. But what do you guys think about playing it on the tile and then using that mana to blink it up so it's a 5/6 instead of a 4/5?
I wouldn't have cared. I feel like it might have been a waste of a Mist Seal.
Yeah.
Just to give a +2/+2 or +1/+1.
Yeah. That's my thought too. I was more afraid of Blood of Air than Falcius, but in either case, I was like, I don't want to. I'm already getting crazy value from this card, so I don't need to get greedy.
Either way, like it's 1 extra point of damage when that card can do so much more.
Yeah. Especially in the backstab deck, like that's really what that was what I was thinking.
Now, and can we just stay paused on it for a second? He's about to do a bunch of other stuff, but
a bunch of beautiful things are about to happen.
So the other thing that should be noted is Key Beholder is the back center of his starting side of the board, and that's really kind of obvious. You know, talking about positioning, obvious. It's not a surprise to anybody that ranged dudes stay in the back while your stuff goes forward. But the thing that can be noted is, I mean, this is kind of null and void because of some other movement stuff that's going to happen with a Flame Wreath. But sometimes what you might do is position your general or other minions to block that off a little bit more, just to give yourself a couple more turns before you're completely encroached on, you know, in the corner or something like that. So rather than letting them cast or walk a minion right up, you know, cast something in and about. But I mean, not some of that's null and void because of what's about to happen. But I wanted to point out that that's something that might be considered.
Yeah, and the reason I didn't is because when I moved my general there, he had two dervishes that couldn't move. That was all he had on the board from the packs. He didn't have the Falcius or anything like that. So I wasn't concerned. If he had a tiger, it didn't matter where I moved the key beholder. I wanted it in the center of the back row or the back column, because I wanted to be able to move it all the way to either corner, depending on what he did play, to give me the option to say, all right, I want to drop it down or move it up.
Good.
So that I had that flexibility. If I kept it in the corner, I'm kind of priced in, and he could have, cornered it. But like you said, Jay, it's not going to matter because of what happens here. And this is why this deck is so much fun, because you get to be very creative in how you clear the board.
Yeah.
So
So
you want to say
Flame
what you
Wreath is just an amazing card. I played it on the mana tile because I needed the 2 mana to Mist Dragon Seal to clear 3 of his 2/2 dervishes and hit his general for 2. And then used
do? Blink.
Kalios's Blink to hit the Falcius and his general, and then cleared the Falcius with Key Beholder. And again, his board's clear. I have a Key Beholder and a 3/5 Flame Wreath on the board, and he's in rough shape right now.
You're stomping him.
And at this point, it is important to note, and he bounces the minion back.
Yeah, with the Sand Swirl Reader.
I mean, admittedly, that wasn't so terrible. I mean, the option was either that.
Terrible. It's
because
terrible.
I could have done this, even if he didn't bounce it, I could have done the exact same thing I'm gonna do now. Like I guess I would have had one more. Actually, would have had one more movement had he not done that.
I don't know now. Well, he has 4 cards in hand. It just makes me think, what are those other 4 cards? Well, I mean, 3 would have been after he played the reader, but the point being, what were those other 3 cards that were worse than just playing a card for no reason, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, in theory, he would have played a different minion and still dealt damage with the movement, but I mean, he got.
I mean, my guess is that he was hoping that I didn't have a way to move it again, right? To move it twice to clear the Sand Swirl Reader.
I mean, I will just say I feel like his problem is that he is playing Sand Swirl Reader. Like I don't think that card's that good. Like it's very expensive, and
I think that card's good. I think that card's good.
I think it's good.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think.
I mean. It didn't matter in this match. I don't have super expensive minions, so like it wasn't setting me back a ton. But the tempo you gain, I mean, ideally, what you want to do is bounce something that's been buffed or something like that, and then use the sand.
I want to point out, and here's what I think he fell into the trap of. And I think this is, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's fairly common. And we should note that this next turn is the last turn. This is a very short game. Which might, if you're listening or if you're watching, it's fairly obvious that this game is going to not be that long, considering the tempo that was being hemorrhaged by this guy. Not to pick on this guy or whatever, but I think what that play was a little bit of and we all have done it at some point, is you make a play that you think it looks good initially until you realize that it doesn't gain you any value. So maybe you punch a creature or trade a creature in that you didn't have to, or maybe you move your general away when it doesn't matter, right? Like, for example, obviously the shoe is on the other foot, but you're now at this point, we're all in the bottom left corner of the board. Your Key Beholder's in the corner. You're angled to protect it from the previous play. It didn't matter where he went, right? It didn't matter where he walked. But let's say your life totals were reversed, and now you're surrounded by him, and he's at 19 life, right? the whole it doesn't matter where you go. Sometimes you'll run away and you'll give up board position, even though they're still going to be able to walk up, nothing inhibiting them, and hit you anyway. So you're going to give up board position for no reason, right? Like, you can't block with a creature. You just reset everybody 2 slots down on the board, right? You go over 2 columns or 2 rows, right? And all you've done is give up board control, and you still get hit. You know, the creatures that could attack creatures still attack.
Yeah.
Whatever. And we laugh about it because it sounds silly, but there's been games where you're there and you go, oh, shoot, my life total's a little low. He's a little ahead on board than me. His creature's a little bit bigger, whatever it might be. I'm going to back up, right? Because that's your inclination. Let me step back, right? And then all of a sudden you go, wait a second. What am I stepping back for? I'm stepping back because I'm thinking I want to get away from this problem, right? The problem of he's going to hit me or yada, yada, yada. But if you can't do it in a way where you don't have the resources to block or stun or whatever it is, all you did was give up board position. You know what you got to do? You just got to stand there, take it in the teeth, and then go at it the next turn. And so what that reader did was something similar, where the reader said, you know what? This wreath is a problem for me. Let me bounce it back to his hand, and I'll get my little stand in the ground.
3/4.
Yeah, I'll get my 3/4, and I'll get a tile, and that's good, right? I'm tempoing, right? Like, and it's true, he tempoed, but the thing he tempoed so happened to be intrinsically valuable for you to be able to replay it, right? And then you got your value back off it, and you killed the thing that he tempoed with. Had that been a key beholder, it would have been better. Had that been a scroll bandit, it would have been a better play. It happened to be the worst play on the board to do it to.
I think the key beholder would have been worse, because I would have gotten the flame wreath. It didn't matter if I replayed it or not. I was still going to be able to move it around, right? And actually, it dealt 2 less damage because I couldn't activate it on its own. Because I had to replay it, I could only inner focus and blink. So I moved it twice, whereas if he had left it on the board, I would have been able to walk, blink, inner focus, and deal 6 instead of 4. And I think bouncing the key beholder, I get the opening gambit value again if he plays that. Plus, the flame wreath was buffed too. It was a 3/5.
He might have been dead actually.
Well, he was.
If he hadn't bounced.
Oh, that's true. Because I mean, this is in a world where we gotta remember he doesn't know.
Yeah, he doesn't know what I have in my hand.
But the point being, if we're talking about opening gambit type effects, which is effectively what Flame Wreath is, right? It's effectively just an opening gambit type effect. If that's what we're looking at, then I mean, even though it's not opening gambit, misunderstand me. But you're using it.
I'm losing you, Jay.
As an opening gambit. But the point being is, the key beholder doesn't attack, and all it does is keep something from moving, or a minion from moving, and that's not nearly as impactful as the flame wreath moving around or whatever.
Right, but if he didn't bounce it, say he just played some minions, did something else, the flame wreath is as dangerous, if not more, on the board than it would be from my hand. Like if he didn't have another answer in his hand, like he didn't have a Blood of Air. If he had a Blood of Air, he should have played that. But the flame wreath, if it was still on the board, it was as dangerous as if it was coming from my hand. And as far as he's concerned, he's thinking maybe he doesn't have inner focus or another Mist Dragon seal, and he's only going to get the one move of it's activated.
I even think it's about the move. It's just like the flame wraith costs you 4 mana to play. Like if you hadn't had to do that, you could killing edge something.
Oh yeah.
You would. I mean, we can see now you didn't hit with the flame wraith. You could have hit with the flame, like he would have been dead 100% in bounce.
Yeah. And I to mention what you to kind of comment on what you said when I didn't hit with the flame wreath because I didn't want him
Oh
to
yeah, no,
to
no,
be
I
able
agree.
to. Yeah,
I agree with you not
I
hitting
just
it.
wanted to kind
I'm
of
just,
say why
oh
I
yeah,
made that choice was I wanted it to not die to him hitting it again. I wanted to have the value of all right, I'm gonna blink it around some more. And if he had I contemplated, well, if he has a blood of air, I'm missing out on 2 damage, right? Because it's gonna die whether
yeah.
it's I hit or not. But I didn't really care. The 2 damage wasn't super
No,
important.
I'm with you. I'd rather protect the tile for when you don't want him getting another body from that, and then it's just 2 damage, man. Like I'm talking about if before if he hadn't bounced that, it was like a 3/5 plus if you were the
Yeah.
killing edge or like it just
Yeah.
it would have been dead.
To kind of reverse and about his placement, I think now again it didn't matter, but knowing that I'm playing backstab, I think he should have played his obelisk behind his general because then I wouldn't have been able to, for instance, play Katara inner focus and do a ton of
Yeah.
damage. That would have protected. Now I know he probably wanted to put that there. I'm not sure because I can clear it even with what's on the board. I can clear it with just the flame wreath moving, punching, and my general punching. Like so, I don't know. I think it.
I think he lost the game as soon as he didn't kill the Kiba holder instead of the scroll bandit. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like you can somewhat run from a scroll bandit. If you start running from a key holder, I think you lost the game.
That's hard. It's hard to run from a kiwi holder.
It's true. It's true, and because you would have had to have exhaust some of those movement resources in order to leverage the kiwi holder effectively, right? Like even like to Kevin's point, if he had killed that kiwi holder, you wouldn't have been able to do 2 damage, I don't think, to kill the top tile obelisk, and you would have still had, it would have been you could have killed it like 1 turn later, but I mean the difference between him having 0 and something is pretty big,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just kind of picked off all the stuff with the kiwi holder.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else really.
Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind
next turn, so
yeah, one thing to keep in mind when you are playing a deck that's running like Mist Dragon Seal, Juxtaposition, Inner Focus, you do want to run through how you're going to move to get maximum value of, say, like your Flame Wreath, because you obviously want it to walk into the the best position to hit the most things. And if you play it in the wrong spot to start with, or you blink it to the wrong spot, so you want to run through that string of, all right, I'm going to move it here, then here, and then here, before you actually do anything, because otherwise you could lose value there. So you want to just be careful of that.
Right.
And then a double killing edge, and that's it.
Which is just a little bit of BMing, because I'm pretty sure it was like 1 point away from lethal.
I used to I'm indifferent to that. What I don't like is when people have the double killing edge and they make the rope show up. That I don't like, and I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to waste somebody's time. But for me, sometimes
that is the worst kind of BM. Is I had someone do that the other day.
Like I could kill you 100 different ways right now, but I'm gonna just make you wait for it.
You don't want to waste the Lord's time, you don't.
But yeah, I in my mind, I would be like, listen, it didn't matter what you did. You were dead, basically, unless you had some way to clear my board. It didn't matter which one of these things survived. You were not gonna make it.
You pummeled them. Yeah,
it was a little one-sided, and that's why that deck is so much fun, because I on 2 consecutive turns cleared his board with not a board clearing spell. like
Yeah.
To be fair,
insane
that
value.
I mean, that deck is. I mean, when you're building a swarm style deck like a Vitruvian Dervish is wont to be, and he clearly had the hand for it. You clearly had the anti-hand for it too,
Sure.
right? Like your deck, everything that happened there was designed to clear boards, right? And so
Yeah.
it's a little leverage in your favor, and he's not necessarily thinking, oh, everything in this guy's deck is gonna wreck everything I'm trying to do, right?
Well,
Because in a lot of other situations, or if you hadn't gotten a couple of those pulls, and we saw, Lord knows, you were just, what's the next card on the top of my deck?
yeah,
Right here?
yeah. It would
I
have
mean-
been. It would have been a little bit. I would have had to have spent a lot more life of my general's life clearing through a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And probably if I didn't draw that Thunderhorn when I did,
I like how you phrase him attacking your face as you clearing his board.
no, I would have attacked like that turn that I played the Thunderhorn. If I didn't have it, I would have had to have attacked his
Obelisk.
attacked his well, I probably wouldn't have hit the obelisk. I would have why I would
You
have had the
wouldn't
key
been able
beholder
to. You would have had to.
clear some stuff, and that
The
would have
point being, if you hadn't had the Thunderhorn to clear his whole board, you could have traded a couple dudes in, but all that stuff was hitting you in the teeth.
oh yeah.
And so I just think
Yep.
it's cute that you go like, I would have had to use my general to kill all those 2/2s. Like, nah, dude, those 2/2s are going at your head.
Yeah, well,
he was using them to clear his board. Done that for
yes,
you.
that's true. But yeah,
So what are
still
some
having
other
fun with that
things
deck.
about positioning that well, if we wanted to use some situations about positioning, some general rules.
one of the things in this deck, and it applies to any deck, but I had to pay more attention to it when I'm playing this. A lot of the minions in this deck are defensive until I want them to be offensive, right? So like Scroll Bandit,
A
all the
lot of stuff you
backstab
do
stuff.
is offensive.
Well, yeah. All the backstab stuff. I don't want you to be able to hit that with your general. I want to do that when I want it to happen, not when you want it to happen. So aside from the potential of taking a tile, you really need to pay attention to what's in range and what can hit the thing that I'm about to play from here. And like I said, with the movement stuff, you want to run through kind of all of the iterations. You want to spend a little bit of time seeing, all right, if I play this here, what can hit it? And am I okay with that? Can it die? Sometimes you play a 3 toughness thing. It's like, well, he can hit it with his general, but it won't die unless he's got something else. You want to make sure that you decide for yourself what is defensive and what's an offensive minion, and then obviously think about, all right, how close to his face do I want this to be? But usually, I think I said this in the Turn 1 podcast, but for me, it really changed how I play the game. You want to be the one that decides when things trade in, right? Like you want to be the one that's making that decision. You don't want to let your opponent make that when you can prevent it, because then they get to decide the order, they get to decide what trades with what. So you do want to keep that in mind, that even if you're playing a Sunsteel Defender, you want to place it in a position where you have the most decisions from that point. You don't want to just throw it in the middle and they get to throw a bunch of, disposable minions into it and you don't get any value. That's one of the things that I think is really important. You want to not just say, oh yeah, this is what I do, I'm going to play it here. You want to spend a little bit of time thinking about, all right, does this make sense? Is this the spot I want to use?
For
Good
sure.
points.
I think one of the other things that I try to do is try to trick my opponent sometimes with my positioning, because with sentinels and sometimes with just minions that you're like, hey, I want you to hit this. You play it where they can reach it in hopes that they walk towards you or they stay where they are. Like with Riva, your blood bond spell where you get the 1/1 range minion. Usually you play that behind you, right? Because you want to defend it. But sometimes you can lure your opponent into saying, you know what, I'm going to move something close. I want to clear that because they don't want the 1/1 to stick around. But you can try to manipulate how your opponent moves based on how you position. If it's an enticing enough target, they'll come towards it. Or you can bait removal on the thing that you want to be removed versus them deciding that.
That's a good point.
For sure.
Sorry.
Oh man.
This is why we
Well,
have
at least-
the video, though.
At least I won and I have good points, right? That's
Yeah. Man.
I'll say this about positioning in general is the corner pillars and body blocking is important. There you go.
Yeah.
It's something it's something that you want to use as much as you can, for anyone who's just starting out. I mean,
Yeah.
the importance of corner positioning, creatures that you want to protect or vice versa.
I thought for a second I thought you were advising all the new players to hide in the corner. I mean, that's
no.
Tactically, it's the best place to be, right, Jay?
Absolutely. If you're fighting me, for sure. I was talking before the podcast. There was a game I played recently where someone played 2 Kataras on turn 1, and I did what I said I was gonna do, which was just hang out at the back wall. And things went okay, and I eventually worked my way up got them into a corner and surrounded them with my dudes and all that good stuff. And then at the end of the day, they ended up they were playing Songhai, obviously, and they Miss Dragon stepped sealed over to me and killed me with some burn stuff. And sometimes it was like this bittersweet moment where sometimes positioning works in a way that it looks like things will work out, and then sometimes there's a strategy that just says, oh yeah, but I don't care about positioning after all.
Yeah. Isn't that when you usually stay on the back wall when you see 2 Kataras?
I was on the back. My general was on the back wall the whole time. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The game, I was at the back wall, and I just kind of, picked stuff off and killed things throughout the game, and I slowly was able to get my dudes up. I was playing Vitruvian, an obelisk type deck, and I got them up in a corner where I had them surrounded by all my stuff, and they were kind of stuck. The only thing they had left was a Lantern Fox, and I was at 10 or 11 life or something, and they were just able to blink the Lantern Fox over into my face and hit me and burn me out with the
Phoenix Fires.
Phoenix Fires that they had from the Lantern Fox. And I had already cleared out a decent amount of their stuff, and I just, had to leave the Fox alive because I was all out of gas. And I mean, I was in a decent spot, but it's one of those things, anytime you're in the teens against a Songhai deck, you could die at any moment. And so it's one of those things where sometimes you can do all you can to keep positioning in your favor, and still.
Yeah. I feel like that should be Songhai's statement, positioning in the end just doesn't matter.
You're never safe.
You're never safe. I eventually will burn you.
Yeah.
Lincoln Park. In the end, it doesn't even matter.
Doesn't even matter. When you were talking about body blocking, one thing to keep in mind, if you're trying to keep one thing from hitting you, whether it's a huge abyssal juggernaut or some just giant EMP or something. You always want to try to play two things in between you and whatever it is. So you run away from it 2 spaces, right? And you play something in front of you, and you play something else defensively or whatever. If they have a removal spell, you just get hit with the EMP or whatever. You want to put 2 things between. So even if they have the removal spell, they still have to use EMP to clear the other thing and not hit you in the face. So it actually buys you the turn that you're hoping for. The worst thing in the world is, they have EMP, you run away, you play whatever in front of it, and they demonic lure it, or they blood of air or whatever, and then they still just hit you in the face anyway. So you can't always do that, right? If you don't have 2 things, you don't have 2 things. But if you do, that's how you want to set it up, is to prevent the removal from just clearing that path entirely. You're in a bad spot.
Nothing feels worse when you go, all right, man, I think I'm okay. I got this thing blocking off. And then, oh, yeah, I guess you do have a Phoenix Fire or a Blood of Air or Dark Transformation or whatever it is.
Right.
All right, well, fine. I guess we can play those things too.
Yeah. You guys have any other insights from the game we watched or anything like that?
Pro tips.
That game?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, he would have had you if he killed that key beholder. You misplayed so many times. I would have played much better. First of all, he would have been dead on turn 2 because I would have had that scroll bandit behind him with that killing edge just plucking away.
Yeah.
No,
yeah. I mean,
no.
Scroll Bandit's not my kill you card usually. Like, it's I'm gonna ping you a little bit. Usually I use it to clear minions though. Like, that's really what Scroll Bandit is really good at, because it kills the small stuff and draws me a card.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can killing edge it and get it behind the general, sure, that's great.
I just would have done it purely on the value of you spending 2 cards. Like, you played the minion and then you do all that damage, plus you draw just as many cards as you used.
I do like the middle ground of the 2 where you walk the key beholder up onto the mana spring and then just Mist Dragon seal it. The Scroll Bandit. Mist Dragon seal it behind the general and hit him. You don't hit him for a ton. You don't have the killing edge on him. You still have the key beholder. And then you still get to get the value. Yeah, and the Scroll Bandit's fine. He's over in the back. I don't think
it probably dies though. Well, I guess if I freeze that.
No, because I don't think either one of the Paxes attack it. I think they both walk forward. I think the AI says they walk forward. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure the AI say they try to walk forward as opposed to go back.
No, they walk to whatever's closest, and in that, if I hadn't frozen the backpacks, it would have been equally close to the Scroll Bandit than to my general. I mean, I could have walked my general up, I guess.
But you could have frozen the one closest to the bandit, and if that were the case, then
I could have done that. Yeah,
because it would have been a 2/4, and I don't think his general could have killed it.
No,
and you could have gotten even more value the next turn. There's a lot to be said about. I mean, it's a fairly minor misplay on your part, but
well, I mean, I think it's all subjective.
No, but I think that.
But it's kind of interesting about how important those first few turns are, because we're talking about the other stuff in the game, but I feel like we keep going back to, well, this was like the key moment. Like, the game would have been a ton different,
right, if
you did XYZ. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's very true, because I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about the fundamental structure of what his deck is trying to do, and he had a very good start. Like, aside from board swipes, and he's got to be thinking, okay, it doesn't look like my opponent's playing spell high, so I don't have to necessarily worry about like Chain Lightning and Crescent Spear.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about Tempest or any of those Breath of the Unborn type spells. There's a lot of board sweeps that I'm looking at that I don't have to really worry about. Aside from Thunderhorn, he was pretty okay, right?
Yeah, he had a pretty good. I mean, for 4 mana, he basically was going to deal 4 damage with his packs and have 4 2/2s.
Yeah,
Pretty
exactly.
good.
Not basically,
Pretty good.
4 3/2s, right?
Well, with
Plus-
the Fireblaze, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, I mean, he was in and that they were going to be able to kill your Bandit and your Key Beholder. I mean, he was in a really good spot. So, like to Kevin's point, like those first few turns are so pivotal because, those are the turns where you're either doing what you want to do really, really well or trying to set up what you want to do really, really well. And any tempo swing, I mean, he lost his whole board in 1 turn. Everything he had done for
Twice.
3 turns, was negated. So when you're 2 turns deep or 3 turns deep and everything is gone, I mean, kind of like we had joked about a couple weeks ago, like, okay, how many turns do you go without playing any creatures, right? Do you skip a 2-drop? Yeah, sometimes, sure, maybe, whatever. Do you skip a 3-drop? I hope not. You skip a 4-drop, concede, right?
Yeah.
Just concede and save your time.
Yeah.
So that's effectively what happened to this guy, right? Like, do you skip?
Yeah.
Do you skip turn 1 and 2 and 3 and still win the game? I mean, the only difference between him having done nothing up to that point and him having had his board wiped was he would have had more cards in his hand, right?
Yeah.
The only difference. And so, I mean, I'm not trying to say like, oh, he should have not played anything. I'm just pointing out.
No,
what
yeah.
Kevin's point is.
Those first plays, playing the double packs.
I mean, that's really good.
That's definitely, you should do that.
No,
you have
what
it.
you write home to your mother about, like to your mom.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
but what you
please.
said, I don't think battle pets are a good idea. Like, Thunderhorn doesn't do a ton in that deck. Like, it's fine, but when they play a battle pet, like it's ridiculous.
Right.
And
And to
it doesn't
your
seem like
point,
people
to
play
my
around
point,
it.
Yeah, to your point and my point, I don't know that that's true. I don't want to be like the guy. I don't want to be super controversial. I mean, I don't like Trump, but I don't know that I'm ready to say no more battle pets. Because, I mean, Pax is a good and efficient card. But
you said
really...
you don't think battle pets are meta when we were watching the game.
I know I said that.
Okay, so you're contradicting yourself now.
I am.
You've gotten that meta with it. All right.
I want to make sure that people know that I am a citizen of the internet, and I will contradict. No, but all my point is I think it's true that I do honestly think that maybe you don't play battle pets right now because Thunderhorn I think is so clutch. Like, I think Thunderhorn is everywhere, Thunderhorn for everybody, Thunderhorn all the time. Like, you see it just everywhere all the time, and it's really good. And whenever it's played, it's hard to deal with, and you gotta deal with it. You gotta answer it. And then if you're playing Ooze or Pax or one of these clutch battle pet type cards, all of a sudden your life is over, right? Like, you don't get a chance to reposition. Your battle pet is gonna wreck you, and most of the time, you aren't. You're at such a disadvantage to play every turn as if your opponent has a Thunderhorn, right? That's why Thunderhorn is so good, right? If I'm going to play every turn, if I'm going to just handicap myself and say, my opponent has a Thunderhorn, I just got to be ready for it because I'm going to play this battle pet, and that's how important this battle pet is. I think that's an unintentional side effect, and I don't know how critical it is to the game to effectively say, depending on how prominent, whatever point in the ladder you're at, depending on how prominent Thunderhorn is, how much you see in it, you can't play. And I mean, this is kind of, what are we really talking about here too? We're talking about Ooze and Pax, right?
Yeah.
What other?
You shouldn't be playing really any other.
Oh, Grow and Magmar.
grow
They-
sometimes.
yeah.
I see a lot.
Yeah. So, but that's the point. Is like battle pets are far less common than those. Like I'm playing a Dervish Obelisk deck, and I don't run packs, not because of this, just because I think I can do better, and it just so happens that hey, also it's probably a bad idea. You know, Vitruvian especially, right? Vitruvian especially, because Vitruvian is like, hey, here I am trying to build up a swarm strategy like we mentioned before, and it's all going to get blown away because I played a Pax and he played a Thunderhorn, and now my game is over. You know?
Yeah. Yep.
So.
All right. So that's that. We'd love to hear your feedback about this kind of a segment, because we might do this a little bit more. Kind of watch one of our games and kind of dissect it. But to move on to something else that we wanted to chat about real quick, not strategic at all. But there was a recent patch.
Or is it?
Well, not on the board of Duelist, but maybe strategic in other ways. Patch 1.89 came out, I guess earlier, the end of last week, as it's Sunday right now. And they did some stuff that, I don't know, didn't seem, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of people, I think on the interwebs, we're like, really, are you not listening to us at all? Like, so one of the things was there's a lot of concern about bugs in the game and with sentinels and stuff like that. And
Which
there's a lot of,
by the way, just to chime in for a moment, is I feel as though it's funny because I'm not trying to say that it all started when Counterplay bought or when Counterplay was bought by Bandai.
it was a partnership. They were bought by Jason.
When they were taken over by
by Namco Bandai.
By Namco Bandai. But I will say I have had many more little glitches than I have before the takeover, the hostile takeover for you.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's because of that, but yeah, I have experienced quite a few bugs.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is mobile. I think everyone agrees mobile is good for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's going to increase the player base. It's going to make it more accessible. I'm going to play more if I can play on my phone or my tablet again. And they have really just been radio silent about that, except for in this patch at the very end of it, when they said product roadmap, they put new platforms, which it could mean mobile, could mean they're going to put it on PlayStation. I'm not exactly sure what it means, and I think I'm hoping that
if it is, it better be cross-platform or something like that. Like, player base is very small as it is. I know, right?
There's the PlayStation, Xbox people, and then there's the PC people.
Open a new account on your Xbox so that you can only play with the Xbox people.
Oh my gosh, no. But I don't know. I feel like they just need to be more honest. Like, hey, listen, you're right. We don't have the time right now to focus on mobile. Here's why. Here's what we're hoping to do. But instead, they just put new platforms. When everyone's been asking a ton, what's going on with mobile? Has anybody heard anything? And they get no response. And I get they don't want to respond to every single person individually. Like, that's not an efficient use of time. But patch notes is a pretty efficient use of it. You could say, hey, new platforms, we're looking to ramp up mobile development again, whenever. But I feel like, or if they just come out and say, hey, listen, we're not going to be able to do it till next year. At least then we know, and we're not like, maybe. Maybe.
And we can quit the game now, right?
Well, I see. I'm
Sorry.
I'm a big proponent of, like, if you're honest with me, even if that news is not what I want to hear, I'm more apt to be okay with it. If
Jeremy,
you tell
I'm
me,
pregnant.
I'm glad you told me, Jason.
You
We'll
said you'd be okay with it, so
um I feel like I get more annoyed even if I have no news than if I had honest bad news, right?
I
Like,
mean, yeah, that maybe that's true for you, but I do feel like they'd lose a lot of players if they just said, "Hey, by the way, we're not going to release like any content for another 6 months." Like there's
well,
people
hopefully
holding
that
out.
isn't true, right?
I
Like,
mean,
sure, that's just bad for the
it
game
could
in
happen. Like,
general.
all right, just to give you an example, other companies have done this. I I play like Diablo 3. It's a game I play, and people have been waiting for an update, expansion, blah blah blah. BlizzCon, they announced they're releasing a Necromancer class. The Necromancer class doesn't release till like next BlizzCon. And like seriously,
Blizzard is
that bad. Like it, yeah. So bigger companies have done it. So I wouldn't put it past Counterplay to be like, yeah, no.
that.
Well,
I'll say this though, because I play Overwatch, which is another Blizzard game, which is culprit to a similar thing because they've done that a couple times with a couple Overwatch things where they, kind of tease out the early development cycle of a new character or a new map or a new something, and then it doesn't come for months and months and months. And now the game is only like a year old, so I mean, they've released a lot of new content, but the player base for sure has gotten rabid because of the fact that, here we were told we were gonna get something with an undisclosed date, and then we just were like, we want it now, right? And and I get a little defensive for Counterplay's sake when I see stuff like this, because I think, let's be honest, there's a development cycle for this stuff, right? Like, they want to make money, and they're gonna make more money if it's on a mobile app or something like that. But they got to develop it, they got to support it, it's got to be stable, and it's not necessarily easy. Like, like Jeremy, you've already seen an unstable iteration come and go, right? And if that's the case, if it was unstable and they said, "Oh, we got to pull it," that means there's more development to it. Now, I'm not saying that I know all that goes into making a stable client. I'm just saying, obviously they were partnered with a larger organization. They want to get theirs. Counterplay, they want to get theirs. Like, I don't know what else Counterplay is doing. Not saying that they aren't doing anything else, but obviously it's in their best interest to do something. I think that they have an awful PR team, like what you're saying. Like the radio silence is no bueno, but at the same time, I just think, like, of course they want to do something, but they have to kind of temper. If they know, hey, you know what, realistically, we're not going to be able to get this done for another 7 or 8 months, right? Well, if that's the case, then they know that realistically they shouldn't say anything right now about it, because, if they just come out and say, hey, in 7 months, like you're saying, Kevin, like 7 months is a long ways away,
Yeah, I feel like you lose like almost everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would leave. I would still play on my desktop like I do, but it's certainly, I mean, I don't think that if they said, oh, we're not going to do it for 7 months, that means they're not going to do anything. I just think it means
Yeah.
that they're that's not coming in. And the irony of, well, if it's not going to be on my phone, then I won't play it at all. A little odd to me, but
No,
Sure.
no, I wasn't saying that. I just mean like maybe the news that they have is that they're not going to get like maybe it's not maybe forget the mobile like maybe the mobile will never come out. That doesn't, I mean it's whatever, but I'm just saying like if they say, "Hey, we got this content, but it's not going to be released or that it's going to be we don't know when it's going to be released," is what we're trying to tell you, and then I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Uh,
I'm maybe I'm in the minority of what I'd want to hear, but I mean, do you guys agree that at the very least, instead of new platforms, they could have been new platforms, sub bullets?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Apple iOS app, Android app, and so maybe they don't put time frames around it, but I think right now, like, there's people questioning, like, really, are you not gonna do this? I mean, it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense because, like you said, Jay,
I-
it is going to generate money for them if they do. But I've seen people questioning, like, hey, is mobile still happening? Because it just stopped. Like, it just didn't, no communication, not even to the people that were in the beta testing. Like, hey, we're turning this off right now. We need to focus on this, this new partnership that we can't tell you about right now. And we need to figure some things out. But like at least
Yeah,
say, hey,
no.
new platforms, we're working on it. Yeah, maybe it's 7 months from now, and they don't need to say that necessarily. But I think,
At least confirm that it's
and I think
happening.
I think we had this conversation way back about just like acknowledge that you're hearing what people are questioning and or complaining about, and even if you don't have like a solution for it, like just say, hey, we've heard everybody complaining about the Sentinel interactions and their inconsistencies. It's on our radar. We have people working into it. We have to look at the coding for each spell and how it interacts with each Sentinel, which is no small task. But we get it. We see it. We know it. We're doing something about it. You don't need to put a time frame. You don't need to give yourself a deadline, but you acknowledged it, and then people are like, "Phew! All right, I'm a little relieved. They heard me." Even if they don't do anything about it for a little while, it at least buys you time where you're not getting people frustrated because you're posting on the forum or on Reddit or whatever and getting nothing and just more speculation from people who don't know, right? Like if I respond to something on Reddit, I have no idea what Counterplay is planning on doing. I'm just guessing. And then at some point my guess becomes, yeah, that's what they're doing. And that's not what you want as a company. You want to be the one driving at least most of the narrative around what you're doing and what you're working on.
true.
Yeah.
So,
Do you guys have anything more to add about the silence?
No.
No.
I don't.
more silence. That's what I
Yeah.
feel as we
There
should
we
have
go.
a moment of silence for their radio silence.
Nah, they can do that after the podcast's over. So with that, thank you everyone for listening / watching / learning. And
We appreciate you learning.
yes. So you can find us at duel-cast.com. And you probably found us on Reddit, which not surprised, at Duel-cast. And on Twitter, we are at duel_cast. And on YouTube, you can find us at Duel-cast. And we'll have links for all that stuff on our website, which we're linking to right now. But again, thank you for listening. Any last words, gentlemen? It was a pleasure, as always.
No.
No. Play games
No,
to have
it's-
fun. That's what it's about. That's why we
There you
do this.
go. No, you know what? Good job, Jeremy. You know what, Jason?
Yeah.
You can stay.
Stay strong.
Stay silent.
Oh,
Do you have anything to say, Jason? All right, we're ending it. Definitely some good points, Jason.